actually step up and take it to ROCCAT, who will be trying to net some more points on this week. But we are into Champion Select, so let's see what the teams have for us. Rise and Vladimir are going to be banned away here. No real surprise, honestly. Those are some really highly contested and banned away champions. And the next one will be Gragas, taken away from Move. So that highlight clip you just saw where Move was camping mid lane, not going to have that this game.
Yeah, ROCCAT were watching that replay and they were like, oh, maybe we should ban it. Obviously, they've done a lot more prior preparation before this.
Yeah.
Move definitely feels that Gragas is one of his comfort picks and will allow him to make these early plays. But obviously, there are other early game junglers in the game right now that can have a similar effect. Mighty Bear did a great job of Nidalee earlier on in the day. Rek'Sai is also a fantastic champion for setting up these early ganks. But it looks like ROCCAT, they definitely want to take away some of these early game champions.
They do indeed. There's the Nidalee gone away, and the Caitlyn is actually going to be banned up against Steelback. Caitlyn very, very strong in that mid game. And of course, maxing those traps, making it very frustrating to deal with. Going to be taken away this time. And Swain banned against Betsy.
He always draws those Swain bans.
He really does.
It just seems to be his ban.
I mean, Betsy Swain is legit. See Parang here. Going to be picking the Shen as our first pick. Interesting.
That's very interesting. I mean, we've seen a lot of Karma prioritization so far. We've also seen some Trundle prioritization, given as to how strong he is against pretty much most of the matchups in top lane right now. But ROCCAT has said, no, we want this global pressure. We want Shen to be that split-pushing menace that can help facilitate potentially our weak early game. Because do remember that the fact that having a Shen on the map means you have to be much more aware of trying to force a play. You want to set up a gank in the top lane, it's not a 2v2, it's a 3v2, because that Shen can join that fight whenever his ultimate is available. So you and I on Challenger did see the way to shut down a Shen is to camp him and to prevent him from being able to actually apply that global pressure. But for UOL, that would mean diverting attention away from Exile and putting it up in the top.
Exactly, so we'll see if they do that in this game. They have locked in their first two choices, which will be the Wandering Caretaker Bard, along with the Spider Queen Elise coming in here for the jungle of Move. So got some early game pressure actually from both of those picks from Unicorns of Love, and that's what I like to see. I think if Unicorns of Love are going to shine, it's not from the macro game, it's not from them pulling some fancy stuff and going SKT style, it's from just having a strong early game and try and run that one home.
So what you have with the Bard and the Elise is great early game pressure, a lot of pick potential, but you also have a fantastic engage in the form of that Tempered Fate. So there are so many plays that you can make if you're Unicorns of Love right now, because you can set up the flank with the Magical Journey. You and I saw Wisdom again in Challenger Series being the engaged support when you're released. Well, if you've got a Bard to help facilitate that, you've already got a great engagement coming out with this duo pair alone. So UOL definitely having the tools in their kit right now to force a fight if they want to. And it does seem to be that UOL do love to get a little bit scrappy.
Don't remind me of the primary engage Elise of jungle. Not so good. But on the opposite side, ROCCAT have locked in the Karma. Jimmy is pretty high priority. If it's up, someone's probably going to pick it. Azir also picked up for Betsy. Be very, very strong on that champion. And we are going to send it back over to Unicorns of Love, who have locked in a Jhin and also LeBlanc. Wow, Exile going to bring LeBlanc out, one of his more signature champions coming out of solo queue.
Definitely something that he's comfortable on, but it is a risk, into that Shen especially. What you do have with Exile is roam pressure. So what they could look to do is, again, move Exile as a combo, could look to apply a lot of ganking up into the top half of the map, try and shut down Parang and just say, hey, you know what, Betsy, it doesn't matter if you're free to farm in the mid lane. You don't have the same sort of siege that you used to have, given the changes to your Arise. So let's just create this fantastic 2, maybe even 3-man roaming party where we can shut down Parang and prevent him from having this sort of global pressure.
Alrighty, back over to ROCCAT. What are they going to round out their picks with? They've locked in the Hecarim. We've actually seen a couple bans towards Hecarim over the last couple of days here, and Sivir will also be picked up, so very much gearing more towards these team fights now, get Sivir involved with the Hecarim, so very cool to see ROCCAT getting more aggressive. And we're just waiting on the final pickup from Unicorns of Love, which we quickly locked in. It's going to be a Trundle, so that was actually a fairly fast champion select, honestly.
Certainly was, and ROCCAT, they've built themselves up quite the hefty team fight composition. You can see that with the Shen, they have a way to get through the rough laning phase. Come the mid game, they're going to hit this great 2-item power spike where not only do you have this great initiation of the Hecarim Shen combo, which we saw work wonders over in the LCK, you've also got the Azir and Sivir doing so much of this team fight damage. And then you've also got the Karma providing all this utility during the engagement as well. So ROCCAT drafting themselves a big, heavy, mid to late game team fight composition, and this just speaks home to ROCCAT's playstyle as a whole. UOL, they're saying, oh, we need this early pressure. We have to go for this roaming gang squad of Elise and LeBlanc, and we need to be moving as a unit, going around the map, trying to find ourselves some picks, and getting this early lead with which we can snowball with, because come the late game, they're not going to stand a chance in these fights.
Yep, go hard or go home from the Unicorns of Love. Here we have the coaches shaking hands before their teams do battle on the Rift here. We'll see who emerges ahead in this one. It will be ROCCAT versus Unicorns of Love. You can see the full compositions and the full player lineups as well coming in here. We'll see how this one works out, but make sure to jump on Twitter, use the hashtags ROCWin and UOL win. We'll be checking in on what you guys think as we get into this game. Our second series here in the studio here with Vedius, who is now joining me.
Yo!
Yo, what up?
So,
we had the TK earlier, actually.
This is going to be exciting. It doesn't sound like it in my voice.
This is going to be an exciting game.
No, it definitely will be an exciting game. We got a bunch of cool stuff. We did see the Hecarim earlier on. We actually saw Hecarim being picked up by G2. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but I would definitely recommend you go check it out if you're a big fan of the onslaughting pony. But the way things are going to work in the early game for ROCCAT is very much about farming. They could look to go for a lane swap if they just want to guarantee a safe laning phase, because Shen works very nicely in these lane swaps. You also have Sivir, who has great wave clear, so it gives you a lot of a tempo advantage early on. Whereas Unicorns of Love, they want to try and snowball that early game. They have great pick potential. Setting up for skirmishes would be fantastic for them, because you have the Trundle, you have the Elise. Bard is really good at roaming around and trying to find these picks, so you are very much about catching a target out of position, quickly shutting them down, and then relying on this great early to mid-game power spike that they have. The big concern I have for UOL is they are on a bit of a clock. They're on a time limit. And going up against ROCCAT, who are now known for these mid to late game team fights, UOL are just saying, okay, we know your weak point, we're going to try and tunnel on it, and if we can't, then it's our own fault for not taking advantage of your weakness. Yeah,
hopefully that will generate some action early, because if not, as you mentioned, Unicorns of Love will fall further and further behind. Honestly, you weren't selling it to me starting off, and it's like, this is going to be an exciting game. ROCCAT are going to spend the first 50 minutes farming. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, Unicorns of Love really have to pressure this early game and make their composition work, and hopefully punish the early game from ROCCAT, because subconsciously or not, Airwax has just spent way less time with Betsy this split than they did in spring. Raze is kind of cornered in here. He goes for the invade, but Hillsang and Veritas saw him, but they have no way to really capitalize, so it's actually going to be fine. And he's going to go do the loop-de-loop around the jungle, so he's fine. And we're going to see Australia
very early gank mid.
Oh, Mad Life! Doesn't matter, because Exile is going to flash away, but burns a flash already. It's very nice. Nice roam from Raze.
Oh, Steelback actually taking the spell shield early on. Interesting that he decided not to spec any of his skill shots, just to make sure that if Veritas and Hellsang do decide to go aggressive, then they have that. He can get out to safety using that spell shield. So I do like that. Also, from Raze, the fact that he roams around mid to try and put down a bit of pressure onto Exile is very much about ROCCAT saying, whoa, we can see what you're doing here. You're trying to be sneaky. You want to be a little bit aggressive in the early game. Well, how do you fancy a bit of 2 versus 1 action at level 1? They get the flash out of Exile. He's now forced to play a little bit more passively. And because he's already burnt one of his health pots, again, he can't be as aggressive as he would like. So ROCCAT being very proactive in this early game and saying, we're going to mitigate as much of the early pressure that you want to exert.
Stop that LeBlanc from snowballing, but I guess some of the positive things from Raze has been the ability to roam as that support and really get involved in the action. So hopefully Betsy can leverage that advantage in the mid lane. That's already culminated in a wave advantage. Bot lane, we're going to be seeing Chachi here face down the Shen. Trundle typically does very well into all melee matchups or anyone who can't pressure him, because later on against tanks he's just going to steal all of their resistances and slap them in the face with his baton. Or his nightstick, I guess, in this case. Move's going to back away.
It's the daytime, Pulse. It's the daytime.
The day stick. But you don't call it a day stick, do you?
No, that's what my stick is called.
Alright. Alright, don't want to touch that topic. Either way, top lane.
No, it's my talking stick. That's what I meant. The talking stick, you know?
Yeah,
like we have in the office, I'm only allowed to speak when I have the stick.
I got the wrong end of that stick.
Yes, you certainly did.
Yeah.
So I want to keep an eye on Airwax's early game with this Hecarim, because typically you don't have that much early pressure with a Hecarim. The best early gank you can really set up is a run at opponent, and if you just look, you might be running into Move right now.
Oh, hello. Cocoon, follow-up, full combo in from Move. It's not going to kill the Hecarim just yet, but maybe now Move doesn't want to be here anymore, because Betsy has arrived. Exile's going to come in to cover his retreat. Move's going to turn around and stay in the Soldier, but Betsy is now out of mana. Exile will try and punish him. Volatile Spiling will say hi to him on the way out and explode on his face. So Betsy will run away.
Bit of a back and forth exchange there between both the jungle mid duos. The partnership that we were discussing earlier on coming into fruition right there is Airwax wants to try and get a bit of deep vision out. Does notice Move, decides they can go a bit aggressive, but because of the introduction of Exile, they're forced to back away. And really, it was ROCCAT that came out behind in that exchange, simply because not only was the Ghost used on Airwax, but also the Cleanse from Betsy. So definitely not what you want to be right now if you're ROCCAT. But as long as you don't give any away kills, you're still following through with your early game plan.
Indeed we do. Killer Sang is putting a lot of pressure into the top lane, forcing ROCCAT to actually go back to base here. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Chachi will deal a bit of damage to Parang. It's Trundle Shen. Not a lot is going to happen in the early game between these two guys. Chachi has had some pretty solid performances as the meta has shifted towards carries. His Aurelia game was particularly good, seeing a lot of Alawi from him. Unfortunately, I am still yet to cast an Alawi game, which is making me very sad.
But think of all the Shen games you've gotten. That's got to be a positive.
But he's not as exciting. I can't talk about Shen mechanics. It's like, oh, wow, he's going to land the Shadow Dash and click Q, and there's his full combo. Whereas Alawi actually has a lot of interesting mechanics. Chachi, I'm disappointed in you. I'm expecting more from you in game 2. But Trundle was a smart pickup here. It was the last pick coming in, and he knew it was against a tank, so why not?
I would still argue that in the late game, Shen can still hold his own against the Trundle.
Oh yeah,
because
Spirit's Refuge is a thing.
Yeah, he is a pretty tanky dude, and we also have to remember the changes to masteries, in which beating back and forth now, you don't get as much sustain in the lane, but the tanks don't really care. So
referring to, of course, Grasp of the Undying.
Grasp of the Undying, that's the Badger.
That's the Badger.
But moving forward, we need to have a look. Again, right now the early game is going in favor of ROCCAT. This is exactly where they want to be, because they just need to farm. CS advantages is still going pretty well for them. Very early Megatron coming out from Betsy, which is great up against a LeBlanc, who I have just noticed has decided to go for that teleports. You do have the 1-through-1 setup, or the potential for the 1-through-1 out of UOL, which, to be fair to ROCCAT, they have no real answer to other than the Shen. Yes, the Shen can sit in the side lane, and if it gets to it will get to a point where he can handle both Exile and Chachi. He won't be able to kill them, but he's definitely not going to die to them. But there's no real answer for ROCCAT to be able to deal with that much pressure. But for Unicorns of Blood, they need to get to that point, because if ROCCAT have their big item spikes come the mid game, then UOL are going to be forced to play to the beat of their drum, because ROCCAT can set up for all the objectives that they want. They can go for the Dragons, they can go for the Rift Herald, they can go for the Baron, and they're going to keep getting these objectives because UOL is still trying to split push. So this early game is very important.
Yeah, it's looking very far into the future. Move is going to try and get a clap down onto Betsy. Here comes the defensive Stand United out from Parang. Interrupted, I think that was from a pillar. So saving his ally there and kind of mitigating the strengths of Move and Exile's partnership in the mid lane. Did have to burn the ult for that.
There's actually a couple of big things right there for Unicorns of Love. I like the fact that Move trying to shut down Betsy early on. This is exactly what we wanted to see from Unicorns, where Move is setting Exile up for success. He is playing this LeBlanc. The sooner he gets these early kills, the better. But unfortunately, it was just a really good flash from Betsy to avoid the cocoon from Move. The chains came out a little bit late from Exile, because you noticed that Betsy, he wasn't even forced to use the cleanse. He knew he was safe. And then also the Shen ultimate. This is the thing that we were also talking about, that global pressure that's always available. I think Chachi should have let him go, because he actually would have been able to build a pretty big CS advantage, force the teleport out from Parang, but instead he said, no, you have to stay in the lane, and Parang's like, well, okay, my mid lane is fine.
That's I'm
just going to stay bot and keep farming. So
yeah,
it's slight like misplay, slight communication error from Chachi.
It's also just a reaction thing. You see someone TPing out and you want to interrupt them immediately without looking at the situation that's evolving in mid lane. So I can understand it from Chachi, but had he had more clarity, as you rightly mentioned, then he could have taken an extra summoner away from Parang. Going to be Parang under attack in the bottom lane now as Move is coming in. Going to be forcing the flash, so Nice gank for a move, just burning the summoner. And we'll put some pressure down onto Parang.
Very early flash from Parang, to be honest. I felt like he had enough health to walk out of that one, especially with a minion wave coming in. He could have used that as a sort of body block to prevent the cocoon from landing onto him. So Parang just wanting to be safe, I guess. He doesn't need that flash this early on. It is going to prevent his playmaking potential. You can't go for that flash dash combo, but nevertheless, you're still playing Shen.
You are still playing Shen. That is a constant in this game for sure. Aoax is going to jump onto Chachi, going to force a flash once again, but Parang actually wasn't going to connect the dash. But either way, that is a flashless bottom lane here in this 1v1, so neither Chachi or Parang will have that one now. And Hylissang is going on a magical adventure, picking up chimes and clearing out pink wards and generally just having a jolly good old time.
Wants to get some good early vision control down. The easier it is for him to control vision, then makes it easier for Exile to roam around the map with move. So it is good by Hylissang to move around as much as he can, just dropping those pink wards, getting some deep vision down. And if you just look at the vision from Unicorns of Blood, they've actually set up the map very nicely to see where Aoax is trying to put any potential pressure, but also the routes in which Unicorns can take to try and set up these roaming ganks. The problem is for Unicorns right now is we just haven't seen any roaming from Exile. He's constantly getting pushed under his turret. There's so much just pressure coming out from the Azir that unfortunately for ROCCAT, or unfortunately for UOL, Exile hasn't really been free to roam around. I
feel a lot of that was set up by Raze in the early game when he roamed to mid lane, burnt the flash, and Exile's like, well, I'm going to get pushed in the mid lane now, and I can't really roam, as you said, and Unicorns are unable to super snowball the early game. They're going to put a bit of pressure onto the bottom lane, but Jin kind of slow at pushing towers. ROCCAT will do the same on the top side, but they will take this tower down way faster. So ROCCAT with the slight tempo advantage here. Chachi is going to head on up to the top lane. Not really tempo advantage, it's not been really a lane swap between good old Australia lanes.
But it is strange from UOL that they're the ones that initiated this swap, yet Move was nowhere near to help them take this turret. Whereas Aoax, he didn't even see this coming. He just recognized there was a big minion wave in the top. They could go for a potential dive. And speaking of dives, have a look at this.
Aoax is coming in here. There's Onslaught of the Shadows, gets the fear back towards his team. Stand United also on top of Aoax. So many flashes, but and Chachi, he is not getting out alive. First blood to Aoax.
So I'm really confused, but hang on, enough of that because the Tempered Fate's come through.
Tempered Fate comes down, and Razor's fate is sealed. Move will come in, pick up the kill. Hylissang following after. Move's going to come back down, and they get a 1-for-1 trade overall, and repel the assault onto the tower.
Okay, so a couple things. Number one, Chachi, why are you staying underneath that turret when there is such a massive minion wave, as well as Airwax? You know he's in the top half of your jungle. You even have a ward to see him. And unfortunately for Chachi, he just doesn't respect the collapse. But because Hylissang has already started his retreat, and because Exile has roamed up after Betsy has decided to back, it does mean that UOL are able to get themselves a return kill. So it does result in a 3-for-3. Also in the bottom lane, you were able to, Veritas, was able to get the shove underneath the turret, so the wave will now be pushing back in their favor. And it does seem that we've just now moved into a lane swap scenario, where UOL decided to instigate it, which in all honesty, I feel like they didn't need to. They were doing well in the 2 versus 2. They had the advantage. Veritas had the CS lead, which you typically don't see from Veritas.
No, ever.
I felt like they could have maintained pressure. They decided to go for the swap, and now Betsy, he is taking a bit of damage from Exile.
He is, but Betsy is returning a lot of damage onto Exile as well. Picked up the Stinger now, so he's on his way to becoming a scary Azir. Top lane is going to go down to Unicorns of Love. Bot lane, are we going to see a repeat of history? Chachi is stepped up while Airwax doesn't have his ultimate this time, doesn't have his summoners, but is potentially looking for a flank here. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, I spot a spider. I spy. Actually, we're just going into the jungle. Chachi going to take the jungle route back to safety, and the push continues in the bot side from ROCCAT. What's going on here?
There's absolutely no response from Unicorns of Love right now. They just want to try and replicate this push in the top half of the map, so they're going to go for the tier 2. Veritas trying to get a bit of damage down, but with that Ghost Blade, he's much more interested in actually taking down this turret. Yeah. So I find it strange that we started off with standard lanes,
and then we turned
all of
a
a sudden
swap.
We've moved into non-standard lanes where we're seeing both teams just going for that push. Nobody has prioritized this Mountain Drake as of yet. Exile is once again going down onto Betsy, but he's not going to get the kill.
No, he's going to back away. Didn't have the Ignite, didn't have the rest of the combo, so he's going to let Betsy waltz away on this one. Top lane, Hylissang is 1v1ing Parang. Standard, as you do. Exile is going to jump over the wall. He's going to stop Betsy's retreat, going to combo him down. The leash connects. Betsy will have to burn the cleanse, and Exile is kind of trapped right now. Here comes Airwax and Raze jumping over the wall. Onslaught of the Shadows comes in. Exile, Jukey Juke. He's going to find Betsy and finish him off in the jungle. Raze is going to follow after, but no one can stop this man. He's on a mission to get into the enemy base and kill himself.
Well, he might be able to escape from this. He is playing LeBlanc, remember. You do have a lot of mobility, but when it's a Shen chasing you, I don't know about that. Actually, he has the teleport.
Parang, he's already used Shadow Dash. I don't think he's got enough damage. Exile, he's going to be living.
Exile with the plays. I cannot believe that not only he gets the kill, but he's actually able to get out of that situation as well. Fantastic stuff coming out from Exile, and this is really what Unicorns of Love needed. They needed to get that LeBlanc ahead. They needed him to start this snowball. And now that he is 1-0-1, now that he's picked up that Morellonomicon, UOL should be feeling much more confident with this early game.
That was actually sick. Hylissang is going to try and pull to safety. Going to flash away as well. Raze following after. And Airwax is going to be CC'd for centuries. And the dragon will go down. That will be an Earth Dragon to the Unicorns of Love. And this is starting to look a lot better for them. Okay, let's see the very start of that and look at Exile's great expedition into ROCCAT's jungle.
So Exile didn't even have a ward. Oh no, he did have the pink ward over there, so he must have just spotted out the Azir, and Airwax comes in from the flank. He then jukes back in. Exile, really smart stuff. Betsy thinks he can get the kill, but Exile just staying out of range of the ultimate from the Azir means that Betsy isn't able to get the damage down. Then Exile, I feel like he's going to kill himself, and then he suddenly remembers, oh, I have a teleport.
Yeah.
Then he recognizes that because the Shadow Dash is gone from Parang, there's no way to interrupt it. But he did take a bit of a gamble here. Parang, he was hoping that Parang wouldn't have the damage. And it looks like Tempered Fate does land onto the Shen.
Yeah, Curtain Call comes in. Chachi's going to bring up the pillar. Airwax is going to try and contest. Parang is dropping low. Will be falling to Chachi. In comes Move. Cocoon lands and Airwax is trying to speed away. Will he get out alive? Move doesn't have another Cocoon in him, unfortunately. So that's still another kill over to the Unicorns. And they are starting to play their composition pretty well. Raze is coming into the mid lane, but this gank isn't going to work out so well as it did at level 1.
Okay, so Parang, you're overextended up to the top half of the map. You know that the wave is pushing towards you because you can see Veritas and Hylissang have already returned to that lane and have started shoving it. You don't need to be that far up the river when you don't even have a tier 2 turret. Allow Steelback to just get the push down on the bottom wave and then just receive the farm as it is coming into your base. Fortunately for ROCCAT, they're able to claim themselves a tier 1 turret in the mid because UOL decided that after the successful gank in the top half, they would go for the Rift Herald. And so that meant that ROCCAT had the positional advantage, they had the numbers advantage, and that resulted in them in picking up that extra objective.
That they did. And Chachi is going to receive all of this farm as well. He's going to get strong and strong in this 1v1. Hopefully able to eventually get to the point where he can push out Parang. And yeah, Unicorns of Love in a not too shabby position. You know, I feel like I get more English when I'm casting with you, Vedius. I'm not really sure why.
Maybe because I'm Welsh.
Maybe.
So you feel the need to compensate.
Perhaps. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. I've been told as well that we sound very similar. I was watching us back on the VOD and I was just like, wow, that was really smart, and then realized it was coming from you. So.
It's annoying as to how similar we look as well.
Yeah, exactly. Almost identical. Impossible to tell the difference.
Yeah, when people come up to me and be like, oh, Pulse, can I take a photo with you? And I'd be like, oh, here we go again. God damn it, Pulse. You really need to change your hair.
Yeah, indeed.
So we need some kind of way to identify
distinguish ourselves, do a stress perhaps.
Exactly.
I can't get rid of facial hair, unfortunately.
I wish I could grow facial hair. It's like a long-standing dream of mine.
Oh. Well, good luck with that one, Vedius.
Anyway,
ROCCAT's dreams in this game are to get to mid and late game, so they can utilize that Azir and body some fools.
And you can see that from the Berserker's Greaves that have been picked up by Betsy, because in the early game, Sorcerer's Boots do have a lot more benefit, whereas the Berserker's Greaves, once you reach a certain point and once you pass a certain item threshold and once your opponents have a certain amount of magic resistance, and the actual attack speed is better for the DPS than the magic pen boots are. So the fact that Betsy's gone for this early is clearly telling you that ROCCAT have said, yeah, we're definitely going late game. We're having no more of this early game shenanigans. And just based off the vision, you can see that right now ROCCAT are basically saying, okay, we want to know exactly where UOL are on the map. We want to make sure that we can see where Exile is trying to put some of his pressure down. But to be fair to Exile right now, level 13, equal in farm to Betsy, but up in kills, up in assists, and is already working towards that Abyssal Scepter. So Exile looking very strong 19 minutes into this game.
Very, very true. ROCCAT almost getting the pick there, but TP back in time. And Chachi is in the bot lane once again, finding Parang, but neither of them really able to push the other route. Now we are 20 minutes into this game. Next round's going to be Mountain. And going to be donating the blue buff as well. So both teams just playing a little more defensive here. Betsy going into the top lane as well to clear out some of these minions. Parang has had very clear goals in this game. It's sit in the side lane and TP when necessary, and otherwise just kind of be a blocker for against the Unicorns of Love. We saw that one game by Parang where he went Jace and was given his signature champion. It was better than the other game he played in that series, but not really by a long shot, enough to warrant allowing him to pick it up every game. Because if you remember, up until that game, everyone was banning Jace against him, and it's just like, yeah, do not want. And then he played it and was like, actually, it's not too bad.
And in the comp, it didn't really make much sense.
No.
And this is kind of it for Parang right now, in the sense that there was, I don't want to say a huge amount of hype surrounding him, but there was definitely some expectations coming over from Korean Challenger. Oh, hang on a second, Exile.
Exile's going to get chased down. Stand United are coming in as well from Parang. Exile's going to jump to relative safety, but Parang will seal the deal. E coming out there to finish him off. And just a nice pick from ROCCAT, honestly. Investing a lot of resources, but still good.
Yeah, it was actually. They were waiting for Exile to overextend. They were waiting for him to go for that potential pick. Airwax using that ultimate to chase Exile down, and given that he'd already used one of his distortions to be aggressive onto his opponent, it meant that he did not have it to escape the engagement from ROCCAT. So right now ROCCAT, they're trying to set up a siege onto this tier 2 turret in the mid lane, but they're taking quite a lot of damage committing to this tower.
Yeah, that was dicey for a second. Thought that was going to finish with one target. Big crits coming out from Veritas. And Chachi backing away. Interesting enough, we also saw in the first series of the day that Jhin was picked up on one of our weaker ADCs in the league. It's interesting because Jhin kind of requires more skill to execute a pick, but didn't you see just a pick, honestly, onto Exile? Yeah, it was just a pick.
It was very much about Exile, as we mentioned before, trying to look for these picks over and over. Raze knew it was coming. He was like, I have a feeling I'm going to get picked on here. So, Airwax, why don't you just wait in the wings and come help me out? So then they punish Exile for his over-aggression. This is something you have to be mindful of. As a LeBlanc, if you're going to constantly sit in a certain bush and make these same repetitive plays over and over, your habits do start to become learned by your opponents, and then it becomes easier to play against. If you remember the round table discussion where Pekka actually said Alex Ish, a very good player, but his playstyle was very similar, and so over time, people started to figure him out, and then it was much easier to counterplay. And in a sort of shorter span of time, this is what's happening to Exile. His tendencies are being quickly figured out by ROCCAT, and he is getting punished.
And over time, they will assimilate, but here comes Veritas, and gets caught out by Airwax. Thank you very much, he says. And Airwax will actually use Onslaught's challenge to escape. I don't think that was entirely necessary, but
wanted to avoid the Tempered Fate. Just guarantee that he didn't get hit by that ultimate. Because if he had, it could have resulted in some danger for him. But fortunately, he was able to avoid it. And so we are going to return to a stalemate once more. But do want to come back to this Parang point that we highlighted earlier, where Parang, coming from Korean Challenger, hasn't quite had the same performance that that maybe some people were expecting. The fact that he was this Jace one-trick pony, like, oh, it's this great carry top lane, and now we're in a meta where carry top laners can start to have an impact, and Europe not like well known for its carry top, so perhaps Parang can shine, but in all honesty, he's never really made any standout plays. He's never done anything super beneficial for his team, and ROCCAT have very much been about Steelback and Betsy being these big carries rather than Parang being this big threat in the top lane.
Yeah, we've had kind of glimpses of carry tops. Like Chachi back in the day was exceptionally strong, I think. Has found it hard to shine nowadays. Cabashard, of course. But yeah, maybe he was looking to stamp his authority, but hasn't really found it just yet. 5 kills in this game so far. 24 minutes in. Next dragon's going to be Ocean. And despite ROCCAT picking up that kill onto Exile, they didn't set up any vision. They didn't set up for the dragon, and Unicorns of Love just kind of walked up to it and was like, okay, I guess we'll just take the next dragon.
And that's 2 Mountain Drakes, which is actually going to be really big for taking down these objectives.
Yeah.
Given that we are now in the 25-minute mark, big items are starting to be completed, but notice that UOL feeling slightly stronger right now, simply because their 2 item spikes are a little bit more powerful based on the champions that they're playing. This Jhin, having completed the Maw of Malmortius alongside the Ghostblade, which did have a reduction of 5 AD, which we all know is so impactful.
Yeah.
But still, will make him pretty powerful at this point as Exile goes for another pick.
Exile looking for the pick onto Raze, but fantastic timing on Parang with Stand United. And indeed, they will stand united. Once again, I think Chachi interrupted him. So, again, maybe another chance for him to have just let him go. Chachi does have Glimpse of the Void as well. So that is important to note. But he's still not able to pressure out Parang. He's able to push him up to tower and get this small amount of CS lead on him every single way, but he's not able to actually do meaningful damage.
Exile would have got that kill if he hadn't missed his chains. But you're also seeing the power of that Abyssal plus Morello combo, where if you do land all your abilities onto Raze, you're just going to quickly get the one-shot. Raze picking up the very early Locket. Sorry, not the Locket, the Aegis. Aegis? No, we Googled this. It is
really?
Aegis, yes.
Oh.
It is.
Okay.
AE is pronounced E.
Aegis. Today I learned.
So, in the past, I had a conversation. Ooh, enough of that, because the Tempered Fate comes down on the Raze.
He's going to get stunned against the wall. Board mechanics. Veritas bringing up the curtain call. Misses the first, and is actually just going to swag walk away. See ya.
So no kills coming out from Unicorns of Love, but they do get themselves that tier 1 turret. So turrets are going to be equalized, but look at the damage Exile's taking. Yeah.
He kind of jumped in there, was looking for a pick onto Raze perhaps, but fortunately didn't land anything. Hillisang once again landing a really good Cosmic Bind, but may pay for it here as Betsy is following after. Conquering Sands comes in. Exile's going to take a trip back to base, and ROCCAT now pressuring down the mid lane. They have the Sun Disc coming up, but unfortunately no minion wave for another 5 to 6 seconds. So Unicorns of Love have some time to rally the troops and defend this tower.
They also have double teleport available on both Exile and Chachi as they look to potentially start the fight, but Move, he's just going to flash instantly. And UOL, they don't look like they're completely coordinated right now.
Almost a good pick onto Betsy. He's going to have to cleanse away from that. Raze on the front lines once again. He's getting chased down. That's a kill over to the Unicorns. Here comes a TP out from Parang onto this mid tower. I see he used Stand United onto Raze and he died anyway. So then he TPs in mid, but maybe unnecessary.
Well, they do right now have the advantage in the sense that... Oh, Hillisang.
Betsy, he's found Hillisang. Everyone take a timeout. Parang comes in, snipe off to the side. And the rest of the ultimates will rain down onto ROCCAT. Chachi's here by himself, but he's a one-man army. He picks up the first kill. He's going on to Betsy as well, looking for the chomp. He finds the second kill. And now Parang is not going to get locked down. He's going to Shadow Dash to safety. And Hillisang is running circles around him. Parang flash over the wall, but the Meeps are slowing him down. He's going to be safe for now, but 3 for 1. Advantage Unicorns.
That all starts with Exile trading his life for Raze very early on in the exchange, because UOL, their actual initiation into the fight was very messy. You had Move trying to start things off, trying to get a pick, isn't quite properly able to execute it, but hang on a second, because the Baron...
Baron is pretty much a raid boss right now. Parang's coming in, will be secured by Move. Now Parang is kind of caught in the middle of everybody, did not want to be there anymore. Unicorns will pick up the kill and the Baron. And this game has very much swung. Okay, let's take a look at that mid lane engagement. Actually, really nice setup onto Betsy from Move.
So you can actually see Move. He is forced to flash early, but then they land the cocoon onto Betsy, so now his cleanse is down. Great binding from Hillisang, and this is where they end up trading Raze for Exile. Betsy and Steelback still doing a lot of damage on the backline, and then we end up in a bit of a back and forth. You have to back away if you're Airwax on the Hecarim because you're very low on health. Also, Move is backing away at the same time, so it becomes a 3v3. Hillisang is sitting on a ward. Betsy tries to catch him out, but because of a really good binding into the Tempered Fate, you buy time for Chachi to come in. Airwax isn't even aware that the Veritas is sitting on the side, is able to get the ultimate off, shuts down Airwax and all of the damage. He isn't even able to use that onslaught of shadows, and then because you have Chachi just sitting on the front line, he can just pound down onto the rest of ROCCAT, and UOL, they end up getting themselves 4-for-1 overall with a Baron and an Ocean Drake.
Man, big swing for the Unicorns. Really what they needed in this mid-game to try and get ahead and try and snowball, and then really just try and close. That's been one of the problems with Unicorns. While they've had advantages, they haven't been able to convert them into wins.
So Unicorns of Love right now, I can feel Deficio grinding his teeth, because you have Chachi on a Trundle sitting in the mid lane with this teleport, while you have Veritas in the bottom half of the map pushing. Now, Unicorns of Love was smart in the sense that they moved down to actually use this big minion wave to push it in. And now the rest of Unicorns of Love are making their way and they're using this big minion wave. So this was a smarter play. But having your AD be your split pusher when you have a teleport on Chachi can often be punished and is usually a very inefficient way to take advantage of your top laner.
Couldn't agree more, Vidius, but this time it's not going to be punished as ROCCAT were unable to respond in time or correctly. Razor trying to interrupt the rotation into bot lane here from Exile. Going to land a short combo onto him. Tempered Fate lands onto Betsy. Will Unicorn be able to follow? Onslaught of Shadows from Airwax. Not entirely sure the rest of the team is on the same page. Veritas going to bring up the curtain call, slamming on towards Betsy. Very low, but it's going to be finished off by Exile. Chachi coming in here. 2 quick kills to the Unicorns, and they are pushing in deep into this base. Razor going to flash away. Steelback takes some punishment. No ultimate for him. Parang as well be forced away. Unicorns take an inhib tower and the inhib, plus 2 kills. That is a solid Baron power play.
And Unicorns of Love, off the back of getting that big pick in the mid lane and taking advantage of the fact that ROCCAT hadn't hit their late game spike, is resulting in Unicorns of Love, again, punishing the weaknesses of ROCCAT. This early game from ROCCAT has just been abused by Unicorns of Love. They've slowly built this lead over time, and it's enabled them with this Baron to get to this point where they can just freely dive the turret. The Tempered Fate comes down onto Betsy. Airwax tries to go for the disengage, but just have a look at Veritas and the amount of damage that he does on the backline. 1 shot down onto Betsy, 2 shots down onto Betsy,
damage.
And he already gets forced off the fight. And without ROCCAT and without Steelback feeling confident enough to do the damage to turn this fight around, there's just nothing that ROCCAT can do, and they end up giving away an inhibitor to Unicorns of Love.
Honestly impressed right now. Unicorns of Love, we were coming into this game and a lot of us agreed in the office. So it's like, honestly, Unicorns of Love probably do look like the 10th place team. And then above them you have the kind of scrum of 6 more teams. But ROCCAT being brought into the Unicorn zone right now, and Unicorns have a dominating lead. They played with their lead well. And I think we start having to raise question marks for not only Unicorns, and maybe they belong within that pack of 6 people, bringing that to 7, or maybe ROCCAT belong with Unicorns down at the bottom, because this is
it's only one game, Paul. It's only one game,
but it's the track record, right, from these 2 teams. Like, they have lost a lot of games in a row now, and ROCCAT, if they were looking to prove anything, it would be trying to get this 2-0 against Unicorns.
You need these wins, because every other team,
very important.
Every other team in the LCS has been stomping Unicorns. The other team that failed to do so was Origin, who are another bottom of the table team. And to be honest, if you're losing games to Unicorns of Love, that's really heavily going to affect your standings moving forward. But Unicorns of Love, they want to try and close this one out. They're onto this tier 3, but Airwax, he wants to stop it.
Airwax launches himself into the enemy team.
Oh no!
No, he was saying he stops Chachi from really getting in there, but maybe he was just saving his ally. That's how to really help your team in solo queue. You draft Bard, and when people start doing stupid things, you ult them.
Okay, so Airwax, he decided to go for Trini Force. Really not a fan of this on jungle Hecarim, simply because it is a massive gold sink for a jungler. It makes you super squishy, and when you try to go for these engagements, that's exactly what happens. Now, without any frontline Unicorns, they can just easily take this turret.
I mean, you can't be primary engaged with Trinity Force, really. ROCCAT are trying to get a punch down onto Chachi. He did drop low. He's going to flash away. Move also drops low and was a little bit out of position. He'll have to burn his summoner spell of flash for that, but still, Unicorns break open the base once more, taking the bottom inhib and now the top inhib tower. And Unicorns of Love are continuing to stay ahead. 1 minute 30 on both Infernal Dragon and Baron. And honestly, Vedius, what do ROCCAT need to do here? Because it seems like they've kind of brought themselves into a corner.
Well, what they What they really need to do is not this, because you can see they're getting quite desperate. They want to try and force a fight. Exile has just used his engage, so Awax feels he can actually go for the fight. When you combine that with the Shen ultimate, you think, oh, you've got this solid front line, but that Hecarim is squishy. And when you have a Jhin who has now completed his Duskblade of Drakthar, you chunk out that Awax, and he just dropped before Parang even had an opportunity to join in. So if you're going to try and force these fights, you really need to go in for a flank engage, because not only are you going to buy more time to allow Parang to actually set up for the taunt and set up for the play, you're also just catching your backline off guard. And to be honest, the fact that ROCCAT are always just running forward allows UOL to quickly respond. You can also separate Awax from the rest of his team using the Pillar. You've also got the Tempered Fate, the Cosmic Binding. It's so difficult for ROCCAT to just run straight at UOL simply because of their composition.
Composition and also being many golds behind. 7,000 gold advances to Unicorns. Now with these big neutral objectives spawning, Unicorns would love to have complete dominance in terms of vision and control. It's going to be a preemptive engage by ROCCAT, see if they can get an early pick before the objectives. Veritas just shakes off the damage. Him's a Tempered Fate onto 2. Hillersign, great ultimate out from him. Curtain Call will start chasing down some of these members, and Move will follow up with the Cocoon, giving enough time for Exile to lead in here, see if he can get some damage done onto the back line. Parang will execute the ultimate raises, separated from the pack. He'll have to flash over the Pillar. Exile coming in from the side, trying to pick away Betsy. And now everyone will take the magical journey towards Baron for the Unicorns. And ROCCAT have taken too much damage. There's a minion wave in their base, and Unicorns will get a very easy objective.
But ROCCAT, they want to try and stop this. They're posturing around the middle lane, but they realize that Unicorns of Love, they just take the Baron far too quickly with their double Mountain Drake. And now Unicorns, they're looking to be a bit aggressive. Exile posturing on the front lines.
Oh, Parang, he's going to get snared. He's going to get stunned. He's going to get Cosmic Bound. And he's going to take a lot of damage, but he's still kicking for now. Airwax jumps in to try and save him, but he'll be caught up in the distortion and go down as well. 2 for the price of 1. Exile will find a foot. No, he won't. Betsy with the outplay. Respect the Sun Disc. Raze getting chased down by Chachi. Only a matter of time, I have to feel, before Karma will indeed bite the dust. Rest in peace, Raze.
And Raze will fall as Veritas gets himself a triple kill. 6, 0, and 7 on this Jhin right now. The only member standing for ROCCAT is Betsy on Azir, and with his health bar that low, I don't think he's going to be able to stop this push coming out from Unicorns.
No. It's going to have to be the play of the century. Pull a Phoenix, or Felix perhaps. But yeah, this isn't looking so good. Unicorns are closing in here onto this Nexus turret. Betsy's going to try and save the day, but Hillersign will say no to that. There's the ultimate coming in, slide the glide right into the fountain, and Unicorns of Love will come in, but it has given enough time for Airwax to respawn and instantly die. There's the ace for Unicorns of Love. Parang dribbling into this fight, but he's also going to go down. Unicorns don't even care about Shen at this point, and the Nexus is so low. Unicorns of Love finish off and find their first win in 2 weeks.
Unicorns of Love coming out with an early game pick composition that very early on, things were looking a little bit shaky.
A little bit grim.
Not quite able to get the same sort of early pressure that they perhaps wanted, but we have to give credit to Exile, to be fair. I mean, he had some very fancy LeBlanc plays.
Yep, man was making plays.
He did play a little bit too over-aggressive at times. I'm recalling back to that big mid fight underneath the tier 2 turret, where he did give his life over for the support. Not ideal, but then Hillersign comes in with this Bard. And I mean, so many good Cosmic Bindings, so many fantastic Tempered Fates. The Magical Journeys were outstanding. And being involved in 12 of the 17 kills.
Yep.
I mean, the only ones he wasn't involved with was when Exile was off doing solo stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Hillersign was such a massive team player, and when you just look at the drafts, it's you had that standard team fight versus pick, and when you pick a Shen into a pick composition, I mean that's great, because how do you pick anyone off when there's a Shen on the map?
Yeah.
So even though they didn't put that much pressure down onto the Shen, he was still struggling to really have any impact. And to be fair, he was under a lot of pressure from Chachi on this Trundle, who was trying to make his life a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, just so many great things coming out from Unicorns of Love. The fact that Move putting a lot of early ganks down in the mid lane, trying to help Exile out where he can. The fact that they got themselves an early lead around the 25-minute mark, obviously more around that mid game, but they took advantage of the fact that they had a spike, they forced it, they outplayed ROCCAT, they got the Baron, and then with that Baron, they played very smartly with it. They weren't too over-aggressive, they weren't over-committing for objectives, they were just slowly working their way into the base, and then they end up closing out the game. And to be honest, my big question marks are sitting there on ROCCAT. Like, ROCCAT should not be losing to the 10th place team. ROCCAT were a team that were going 1-1 with H2K.
Yeah, they were taking names against some of the best in the league.
They took 1-1 with G2. They're almost like the Jin Air of Europe, you know, where they take from the rich and give to the poor. I mean, ROCCAT right now just not performing against Unicorns of Love. And they had the composition to do it. They only had to stall out. And they just allowed Unicorns of Love to get those picks and really run away with the game.
But it looked so good for ROCCAT in the early game. It was just like, wow, what a good roam coming in for Raze. And he was just like, put Exile behind. It's like, man, they can just stall to mid-game, late game, and really make the composition work. But disappointing from ROCCAT. But at the same time, pretty impressive by Unicorns of Love. I just was not expecting them to close so well with their advantage. A lot of that came also from Veritas on the scene in this game. Actually had a pretty decent one. We're going to take a look at his triple kill in this one on Jin. But more than anything, it wasn't, of course, from the triple kill, but he was actually getting some good setups with the curtain call, with the deadly flourishes. And I think just, well played by Veritas in general. So a lot of people just brought this together from the Unicorns.
Who would have thought that Veritas, one of our statistically weakest AD carries in Europe, would have such a phenomenal performance on this Jin? And I mean,
it's been a day for kind of the bottom of the table ADCs. Like Sunstar as well at the start of the day actually had a pretty stellar performance.
He did, yeah.
And it was also Jin. So maybe Jin is the magic number,
well, we thought it was
the special
Ash
part of
week.
the recipe.
Do you remember, like Ash, the utility AD carry?
We were like,
oh, you know what, just give the weaker AD carries the utility and just allow them to be like the engage, the support. Right. And now you're on this Jin who, to be fair, very low mobility, has quite a high skill cap, requires a good understanding of the champion, how to play him. And Unicorns of Love making it work for themselves, and they're going to get themselves game 1 of this series.
Pretty weird, but well played to the Unicorns. Anyway, we're going to send it to a quick commercial break, but when we get back, we will be here with game 2 between the Unicorns and ROCCAT.